Welcome to this explainer. Today we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most consequential financial mechanisms on the planet. We are exploring the hidden mechanics of government debt, digging into the raw psychology, the rigorous math, and the incredibly high-stakes decisions that literally dictate the cost of money itself. Before we jump into the mechanics, please note, this video on the channel Blocks, Bonds, Funds is created for educational and informational purposes only, and does not constitute financial or investment advice. Okay, so picture this. You've got thousands of sophisticated investors staring at the exact same Treasury security, but they completely disagree on what yield they should demand for it. One bids at 4.2%, another demands 4.25%, and another, well, they refuse to buy in unless the yield hits 4.30%. Why is that? They aren't looking at different bonds. They're actually looking at different futures. One expects interest rates to fall. Another thinks inflation is going to stick around. A bank might just need liquidity right now, while a massive fund desperately needs duration. And a dealer, they might just be protecting their balance sheet. Somewhere inside this absolutely enormous order book, all of these conflicting decisions violently collide. The auction closes, and suddenly one single yield becomes the cutoff. But here's the real mystery we're unpacking today. Does a high bid-to-cover ratio actually mean investors wanted that debt? And what exactly is happening when the auction yield suddenly comes in way higher than the market expected? Because behind every single Treasury auction is something far more powerful than just a bidding process. It's a live, real-time experience in investor psychology, risk, and price discovery. To really understand how all these conflicting views get processed, we first need to know the rules of the game. In a U.S. Treasury auction, the bids are split into two main buckets, non-competitive and competitive. Non-competitive bidders, which are often your everyday retail investors, essentially say, hey, I'll take whatever yield the market decides. They are guaranteed to get their bonds. But competitive bidders, those are the heavyweights, the banks, the primary dealers, the massive institutional funds. They specify exactly the yield they're willing to accept and the quantity they want, which is capped at 35% of the offering per bidder. By demanding a lower yield, they're actually helping reduce the government's borrowing costs. But if they demand a higher yield, they are requiring greater compensation for taking on risk. And that decision ultimately dictates the interest rates that trickle down through the entire economy. So how do these massive competitive bidders actually arrive at their numbers? It's like a giant, fascinating mathematical pipeline. It all starts with macro expectations. What is the Federal Reserve going to do next month? What does economic growth look like? Then those abstract ideas filter through very specific institutional constraints. Finally, those two elements morph together to create a required return, which pops out the other side as a concrete bid yield. To anchor this in reality, let's look at the 2-year Treasury notes. Because these notes pay interest every 6 months and have a very short 2-year lifespan, they are highly, highly sensitive to near-term economic expectations, especially when we're talking about monetary policy and inflation. Watching a 2-year auction unfold is literally watching a high-stakes experiment in investor psychology play out in real time. And to show you exactly what this psychology looks like in the wild, let's look at a real reaction from a remarkably weak $69 billion auction for a 2-year Treasury note that matures in March 2026. One retail investor observed, the price action on the 2-year is now pricing in a Fed rate hike. You see, when investors are scared the central bank is going to raise short-term interest rates, the yield they demand at auction shoots up to compensate for that fear. Adding to that, another investor chimed in on global tensions, noting how inflation works its way through the system as oil prices increase, hitting producers and then consumers. This absolutely hits the nail on the head. Geopolitical tension and sudden spikes in commodity prices instantly translate into fears of sticky inflation. And inflation? It eats away at the fixed returns of a bond. So naturally, investors revise their required yields upward to protect themselves. But remember that pipeline we talked about? Expectations are only half the battle. The crucial thing to understand is that beyond those macro fears, every single bidder has distinct hard-coded structural constraints. A bank, for instance, might bid at a slightly lower yield simply because strict regulatory mandates force them to hold highly liquid assets. A pension fund might bid super aggressively because they desperately need long-term duration to match up with their future liabilities. Meanwhile, a primary dealer might submit a much more cautious bid just to protect their own balance sheet.
These differing mandates literally force them to value the exact same security in completely different ways.
Let's simplify this and see how it builds an actual market price. The Treasury uses what's called a modified Dutch auction mechanism. Let's imagine a $100 million auction. Tom steps up and bids for $40 million at a 4.10% yield. Bob bids for $40 million at 4.20%, and Jane bids for $40 million at 4.30%. Now, the Treasury acts rationally here. They are going to accept the lowest yields first, because that means the lowest borrowing cost for the government. So they take Tom's full $40 million, they take Bob's full $40 million, that's $80 million filled right there, leaving just $20 million left on the table. And this brings us to the absolute most important concept of the whole event, the stop-out yield, which is sometimes called the high yield. This is the highest accepted yield required to sell the entire offering. What's absolutely fascinating here is that this stop-out yield is not some average of everyone's opinions. No, it is the exact marginal clearing price where all these conflicting, aggressive decisions collide, and the auction is finally filled.
Let's look at the brutal reality of how that allocation actually shakes out. Tom gets his $40 million, Bob gets his $40 million. Jane, well, she only gets the remaining $20 million of her order filled. But because this is a uniform price auction, every single winning bidder, Tom, Bob, Jane, plus all those non-competitive retail bidders we mentioned earlier, gets the exact same stop-out yield, in this case, 4.30%. The whole system compresses all that complex psychology and constraint into one single observable cutoff rate.
The moment the auction closes, we get a flurry of metrics telling us how the market actually felt about buying that debt. Take this number, for example, 2.44. This was the exact bid-to-cover ratio from that weak March 2026 two-year note auction. It was the narrowest reading the market had seen since May 2024. But what does a number like that actually tell us?
Well, the bid-to-cover ratio is pretty straightforward. It simply measures the total dollar value of bids received divided by the amount of securities offered. Essentially, how many dollars are chasing each dollar of debt. Generally speaking, a ratio above 2.5 means you've got strong demand. 2.0 to 2.5 is average, perfectly acceptable, but anything below 2.0, that's weak, and it gets people sweating. So that 2.44 reading, it showed demand was acceptable, sure, but it was definitely softening because of those swirling fears about inflation and rate hikes. Now, another massive indicator of an auction's health is something called the tail. See, before the auction even happens, securities trade on a when-issued basis. This basically creates a market consensus of what the yield should be. If the actual stop-out yield comes in higher than that when-issued expected yield, that difference is the tail. A large tail exposes uncertainty. It literally means the Treasury had to offer higher yields than the market anticipated just to attract enough buyers to clear the books. Think of a long tail as the market's way of loudly demanding a risk premium.
We also have to look closely at exactly who is showing up to buy. The Treasury breaks this down into direct and indirect bidders. Direct bidders are your domestic players, U.S. pension funds, domestic insurance companies, folks like that. Indirect bidders, on the other hand, are typically foreign central banks and international investors bidding through intermediaries. Seeing a strong turnout of indirect bidders is a vital signal. It proves there's robust global confidence in the debt. The second the auction is over and the winners get their securities, the debt immediately starts trading on the secondary market. And here, the fundamental law of bonds takes over. There is a strict inverse relationship between yield and price. If expectations for future growth or inflation go up, the yield goes up, which means the trading price goes down. Market participants are constantly evaluating this tick by tick, factoring in complex things like the convexity premium. That's really just a mathematical reality where the potential capital gains from falling yields actually outweigh the losses from rising yields, which heavily shifts how long-term bonds are priced. Now, what's really fascinating here is that while we've been using the U.S. Treasury system as our framework, these mechanics of price discovery are truly universal. Whether we're talking about U.S. Treasuries, UK gilts managed by the Debt Management Office, or Indian government securities overseen by the Reserve Bank of India, the core psychology is identical. Despite the institutional differences, global capital always seeks proper compensation for risk. In fact, if you look across all these global markets, sovereign debt flows through the exact same 5-step life cycle. It kicks off with announcement and issuance. Then you hit the bidding phase, where those competitive and non-competitive forces submit their demands. That triggers yield discovery, finding that brutal stop-out rate we talked about. Next comes allocation, where orders are filled. And finally, settlement, where the cash actually changes hands and the debt is officially owned. But what happens when that whole system starts breaking down under stress? Well, let's look at India for a real-world example of this. Recently, the Reserve Bank of India actually rejected all bids for certain Treasury bills. Why on earth would they do that? Because persistent tightness in systemic liquidity caused investors to demand significantly higher yields. Cutoff yields had been pushed up pretty dramatically in just a matter of weeks. The central bank looked at those demands and basically said, no way, that price is too high. It is a perfect real-time illustration of how liquidity stress forces investors to demand higher compensation and how governments will step in to defend their borrowing costs. So let's put this whole puzzle together into one definitive system. An investor forms their macroeconomic expectations. They filter those through their strict portfolio constraints. They calculate their required return, and they submit a bid. That bid enters a fierce competition against thousands of others. The government accepts those bids from the bottom up until they establish the cutoff yield. The debt gets allocated, and instantly it transitions into secondary market pricing, reacting tick by tick to every hiccup in the global economy. Ultimately, what we've seen today is that behind every single government debt auction is something far more powerful than a simple bidding process. It's a live, incredibly high-stakes experiment in human psychology, institutional risk, and global expectations. These auctions take a million conflicting beliefs about the future, throw them into a massive mathematical crucible, and forge them into a single observable market price. The auction strips away the noise and reveals exactly what investors are willing to accept to own the debt. But it leaves us with one vital question. The next time Treasury yields suddenly spike, is the market demanding more because it sees explosive economic growth on the horizon, or because it senses underlying fear? Keep questioning the numbers, and I'll see you in the next explainer.